Introduce myself, me and Allison. So I'm Rana Smith and my business partner, Allison Saraf. Give us a little wave, Allison. We are the founders and hosts for tonight, but we're the founders of Sensory Souk. And we are very excited to have Aliya Qutub with us today. Just to point out that we will be recording this session. So if you do not want to have your face or your voice on the recording, then just mute yourself, I guess, so that, or don't show your picture so that it's not recorded. We were happy to take questions at the end. Aliya is going to give us a presentation, and I'll turn it over to Allison to introduce her. Oh, Allison, I can't hear you. Wait, you're muted. Hang on. Wait. Unmute. Sorry.
I've just unmuted myself here.
Okay,
hi. Okay, hi. Good evening. Aliya, thank you so much for joining us this evening. So I'll just give you a very brief introduction, just to let everybody know what it is that you are, why you're joining us this evening. So Aliya is a mindfulness, meditation and yoga teacher and a mother of three, an amazing mother of three. She's also the coordinator for the Doha Mindful Community, which is a really, really great organization. And they're doing lots of very positive things around Doha, which is fantastic. So Aliya, the floor is yours. Welcome. We look forward to hearing what you're saying to us this evening.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. And my work mostly revolves around talking about mindfulness and presence in the context of just our personal development. And I always enjoy doing mindfulness parenting or working in school settings because I really believe that it's something that we can encompass into our everyday life, not thinking of it just as a practice like, oh, I meditate or I go to a yoga class or I have a breathing practice, but more as a trait that we start to possess, and we're able to then pay attention in a particular way on purpose and without judgment. And that's kind of the textbook definition of mindfulness as defined by Jon Kabat-Zinn. But if you think about it a little bit more casually, what you could say is that mindfulness is a presence of heart. So it's your ability to recognize that this moment is the only moment that you ever really have. And then within this moment, it's our chance to connect, our chance to create, our chance to love, and our chance to feel any one of the range of emotions that humans experience on a daily basis, both positive and negative. And what tends to stand in the way of that? It could be your mind, it could be thought patterns, it could be behaviors. So by bringing our attention into it, we can sometimes work to shift our awareness to start recognizing our thought patterns. And we'll do that together just now to see what some of our thought patterns are. So the first thing that I just wanted to share is some of the things that I recommend, generally speaking, for people is to meditate, to do breath work, and to do some sort of a physical exercise, whatever resonates with you. And when we talk about breath work, it's an intentional breathing, and it's received a lot of attention, throughout, but especially in the last few weeks because of Corona. And I think Harvard Medical School released a study saying it's been shown that intentional breathing can have very positive effects on stress reduction. And so we're breathing throughout our day between 17,000 to 30,000 times a day. It's such a high number. And of course, it's unconscious breathing pattern, but it does reflect what's going on inside of you. So typically, an adult will breathe between 12 to 20 breaths in 1 minute. So it just depends on how you're feeling, if you've done some sort of an exercise or not. So what I'd like us to do together is to just spend 1 minute together, and I'll just ring a bell so we can bring ourselves into the present moment, just listening to the sound of the vibration. And as you hear it, just allowing it to be a reminder to you that we're just about to start a practice. And I'm going to just get my timer started. And I'll ask everyone to just tune into your breath and count how many breaths you take in the next minute for yourself. You can just use your hands, just use your fingers. So as you're breathing in and out, just allow yourself to feel the rise and the fall of your chest as it is. Don't try to make your breathing any deeper or any shorter. And as you're feeling the breath, you can just notice for yourself whether it feels calm or relaxed. And notice how that also attunes to how your mind is feeling. We have about 15 seconds, so just counting your breath. And just noticing how your inhales and your exhales are feeling. And coming down to our last 3, 2, and 1. So put your hands up and let me know how many breaths you took in that minute. So I took about 10.
Yeah.
I took 12.
10, 12, yeah, something like that.
Okay. And when you were noticing your breath, did you notice if your mind was focused on the breath as we were doing the breathing, or were you thinking about more of the present, more of the past, or more towards the future?
I was thinking about my breathing.
I was thinking about my breathing too.
Yeah,
exactly.
I gave you an explicit, no, that's exactly, because you were given an explicit instruction.
Yeah.
So you brought your attention towards not just I'm taking my breath, but I'm trying to count my breath. So your mind will not wander as much as if I told you, okay, we're just going to sit for a minute, because then immediately your brain will either start shifting towards the past and you might think about something that happened or something that's pleasant or unpleasant, or you'll start thinking about the future. What do I need to do after this Zoom session? What else is on my plate? But because I said count your breath, immediately that brought you into the present moment. And that was just a minute. Mm-hmm. And I know a minute can actually seem really long. Like in this context, all of a sudden it felt like, wow, a minute is a really long time. But a breath doesn't have to be that long. So it's just to show the link between our breath and our ability to anchor our mind and our attention. And I did mention meditation, and I mean that in a very non-sectarian way. It's just a sense of, if I'm meditating, I'm sitting in stillness. So I could literally be sitting here. I don't need to wear any specific outfit. I don't need to play anything in the background. It's just, I'm here now. I'm concentrating on what's happening inside of me. Right now, I might feel really calm. So my meditation could just be like, I feel really calm and very aware. However, you can also bring that same awareness to different emotional states, like when we're feeling upset or angry, embracing the full range of emotion. But we'll get into that. But when we pay attention and really focus our concentration in a systematic way, and our only intention is to be, that's meditation. So the same principle can be applied, as we had discussed before, to making my cup of tea, cooking. Being fully present with the alchemy of all the ingredients in the kitchen is something that's extremely meditative. Throughout history, people call them constitutionals, but walking. Because as you're walking, you tend to have a very rhythmic connection. And if you do it for long enough, you'll notice your heart rate can settle, your breathing starts getting connected to the action. So any one of these things we can consider an active meditation, a walking meditation, or sitting in stillness. And so that, I'm mentioning all of that so everyone understands what mindfulness is. And then I want to focus more specifically on mindful parenting. So with mindful parenting, our intention becomes that it's an ongoing intention to take pauses. Because when you're a parent, it's pretty much like a 24-hour job. So you can't stop in between and say, okay, well, now I'm just going to. No, it's an ongoing process. We have, thousands of interactions that are taking place. Sometimes it's in the form of commands, sometimes it's in the form of connection. So in all those, in the full scope or range of within our parenting, we want to just keep making our intention to be present, to take pauses, and then notice without judgment when you aren't able to do that, and then redirect yourself to being present once again. So for example, even as I'm seated here, if one of my children calls out to me and asks me for something, of course, I'm completely focused on the task that I'm doing in front of me. So I would only be able to give maybe 2% of my attention. I'd just kind of be like, okay. And if you ask me in 5 minutes, I may not even remember what they asked for, because I'm very single-mindedly focused on what I'm trying to do. However, if in that moment I said, oh, hold on, let me pause this, turn my attention towards you, focus on what you're asking me for, and then redirect myself. So just that small shift, when it takes place, it can allow us to just engage once again in the present moment. And I use fast examples because I want to be very realistic about what it is to be a parent, what it is to be a mother, having 3 myself. And what I like to define being a parent, what it is for me in particular, and what I think it is for a lot of people, and I've read in literature, is that it's a feeling as if your vulnerable heart is living outside of your body forever. Wow. And the scope of it really changes from having an infant, a baby, a toddler, your worries, your concerns, all the way up through the range of having an adult child. But the universality of parents, regardless of culture, background, socioeconomic situations, is we fear for our children. We feel frustrated when things don't go as planned. And we feel overwhelmed sometimes when the demands exceed our skills or our resources. There can be a sense of loss, even in the passing of time. Like once your child is school going, you might be like, oh, I miss when they were a toddler. You know, like there's always this little bit of nostalgia in seeing someone go all the way from infancy into adulthood. You're missing all those versions of themselves that they were, that you witnessed, but they just experienced. And then there is a sense of guilt, unfortunately, because we're always, depending on how we were programmed and the messages we receive from our own families, from society, we may feel, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough. If I was a better mom, I would be more patient. If I was a better mom, I wouldn't scream. If I was a better mom, I would be going to all those virtual museums and my child would have no screen time. I mean, there's always a narrative, you know, and sometimes it changes. Like, you know, attachment parenting is in for a decade and then something else becomes in, and now I heard it's baby-led weaning, and I'm like, oh wow, it keeps shifting. So what's important for us to realize is it's a common humanity. We're all going through it at the same time. And no matter what, you will always be able to connect on those points. Like if I tell you, you know, I'm concerned or I'm worried for my child, you'll be like, I understand. I may not understand your situation and your concern, but I understand that worry. I understand that emotion, and I can validate that for you. And so I think that it's very important for us to realize in our current situation that we are actually dealing with almost all of these. We're worried about ourselves, our loved ones, our children. Everything is not as planned. Everyone's life has been, you know, upended. And we may have some loss over things that were planned, things as they should be. I know my April was planned out and I had travel plans and people who were visiting and all of that. So all at once having to change that. And yet also recognizing that we have to be the anchor oftentimes for our family. And I'm not saying this just as a mother, I mean the parent. The role of the parent is as the anchor. However, it plays out in specific ways for caregivers. And then the final thing is that we often tend to have some fear as parents for our own selves, because there is a sense of all that you give up in order to be a parent. And most of us have experienced this unlimited well of love that rises up when you are a parent. And I think the depth of that is like the abyss of an ocean. You just don't know where or how deeply you can go into it. But then just like the abyss, it can be a little scary because you can lose yourself within that. And it could be, in my case, I've been a mother for almost half of my life. And so when I think about who I am in relation to my own personal life as related to being a parent, I think there's a little bit of a balance that's very important. So just in welcoming everyone who is joining in, we've just discussed a few points about mindfulness, related them to mindful parenting, and just discussing a little bit of some of the concerns and issues that are arising in the last few weeks or month as we're going through this, pandemic and time of uncertainty for everyone. So I'd like to do a really quick breathing exercise with everyone now that some people have joined in as well. And then I'd like to talk more about tips that we can do as caregivers, as parents, in order to support not only our children, but also ourselves. Because for us, it's very important to remember that even though you may feel that your children, especially if they're younger, like, oh, they're sheltered, they don't know everything that's happening. The reality is if they're able to understand, which can be very young, it can be just, 2-3 years old. Most children can sense that something's serious and that something threatening is happening around them. And so according to a lot of child development experts, you may see certain patterns in their behavior, which shows that they're kind of reacting to the uncertainty the same way we are. And what they will pick up most is not going to be the numbers. It's not going to be the number of cases or, oh, is it a shelter in place or lockdown? It's going to be when this scary and threatening event was taking place, how did my parents cope with it? What was the feeling that I got? If they got a feeling of security, if they got a feeling of nurturing, or even of connection within their home, or if they pick up, because of course humans pick up and mirror each other's moods, and we mirror each other's behaviors. So if you're very stressed out and volatile, you may notice that the children are starting to pick up on the same behaviors, and they may be mimicking that. When we're stressed out, we act like this. Maybe we're playing our news channel on really high volume, and they're hearing all of that, and they're seeing, oh, I can always see them talking. I can see how stressed out everyone is. And then they'll pick up. And not that we can shelter them completely from that, but just understand that it's important for us to take care of ourselves in order to be able to model emotional regulation and a sense of stability, which comes down to being the anchor of the family. So we tuned into our breath earlier, and we were just counting how many breaths we could do in a minute. And so this time I'd like us to just try to hold our breath in an equal length pattern. So just working with the nature of our breath. And if you are able to extend your inhales and exhales, you may find that it has an effect on you. So I'm not going to tell you what it should or shouldn't be. I'm just going to ask you to keep an open mind to this experience. So as you hear me just ring these little bells, I'd like you to just listen to the vibration until you can't hear it anymore. It tends to be quite long. I hope it's coming through in the Zoom. And as I ring it one more time, just allow your eyes to gently close. And just feel your natural breath as it is in this moment, not trying to alter it in any way. Notice if the air feels warm or cold, if you can pick up any subtle sense within the space that you're seated in. Feel the breath going in through your nose, into your chest, perhaps your side ribs, or even your belly if you're feeling particularly relaxed. And then notice that slight pause as you begin your exhale. Exhaling completely. When you think you have exhaled completely, exhale just a little bit more to get that remaining air outside. And taking one more deep breath, inhaling as if this breath is the greatest gift you've gotten today. And exhaling. Last one, deepest breath today. Inhale. And exhale, you can sigh it out through your mouth. And just blinking your eyes open. those were just 3 breaths that we took together. And it can be amazing how restorative that feels, because we allow our parasympathetic nervous system to slowly just tell us it's okay to rest and digest from a state of feeling a little bit more on fight or flight. Not getting into all the details, but most people have probably heard some of this terminology. So when our senses are heightened, even something small like hearing, I don't know, your kids break something in the other room, or just their sound, and you're just like, ah, and your reaction is so strong. Whereas if you're quite calm and you hear it, you might just think, maybe they're playing around. I'll just go have a look and make sure they're okay. So the very same situation can have us react in 2 very different ways. And it's not because the situation is any different. It's because our response and our emotional regulation is different. So it's always important for us to remember that in any situation, you always have control over your own reaction and over nothing else, even your own children. If you just think back to any one situation in your life that you've ever been able to completely control another being, it doesn't happen, but you can control your own reaction. So in talking about that, I think that I would like to mention some of the things that we do. I see most people don't have a visual on. If you feel comfortable to put that on, I'm going to ask questions, just asking for a thumbs up and a thumbs down so we can see each other. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, then I can just do it for the people that I can see. But if you can put your visual on, then we'll be able to see you, because I'd like to talk about one of the main points of mindfulness parenting in times of uncertainty, which is the idea of self-care. And sometimes when people say self-care, you're thinking of like spa and massage, but I mean really coming down to very basic things that we're talking about, our needs. So if I could see more people, I was going to basically name a few different things and then have you think for yourself. Thumbs up is that this is something that uplifts me, and thumbs down is that I'm not interested in this. But since I can't see a lot of people and I see that we don't have much time remaining, I'm just going to mention what these different things are. So when we're talking about self-care, it can fall within different categories. And we have this nice little visual here, which is the 7 essential activities to take care of mental well-being, which Rana and Allison have access to this document to share with you. And besides talking about making sure you're getting adequate sleep and nutrition, we also want to look at the things that you're doing currently that make you feel better. So they're having a positive impact on you. So some of the things I wanted to mention is walking, if that's possible, journaling, which is writing daily. It can be free flow, it can be to a prompt. Exercise in whichever way that you enjoy. There's no one set way, but just making sure that your heart rate is going. It reduces your cortisol and gives you good endorphins. Listening to music, reading, watching an uplifting show or movie. And it can be something that you binge watch. That's fine. If that's what you decide to do with intention, that can totally be how you recharge your batteries. There's no judgment there. And it might be different on a different day. And then from the social perspective, connecting with your partner, your friends, or your support system. And it's really important for you to identify for yourself who your support is. So those would be the people who you can share your deepest, darkest days, as well as all the things that have made your day brighter. And that would be your support. And in considering your own needs, even with work, if you're working online, identifying for yourself how that's working for you. If you need to take breaks in between, disconnect completely, go out in the middle of the day, just being a little bit more reflective. Because if you're burnt out and you're not taking care of yourself, and you're not eating well, and you're not getting enough sleep, I can promise you that you definitely won't be able to then also go on and take care of other people, because truly the analogy of putting the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help others is 100% true. More so, I think, in our case, because you're asked to dig so deeply within yourself in order to nurture your children. And then also to reframe our situation. One of the things that we have, sadly, is a negativity bias. So for humans, we tend to see things negatively more easily than we will see them positively. And that can kind of color your whole day, because you can have 10 great things happen to you and just 2 bad ones. But when your friend calls you and says, oh, how was your day? You're not going to tell her, oh my God, I slept beautifully and I had the most perfect cup of coffee and then I got to go for a walk and I heard the birds chirping. You're going to say, oh my God, you won't believe what happened to me today. And that's just how we're wired. So just acknowledging that. But I wanted to throw out an idea for you, a challenge to everyone who's listening today, which is the next time you speak to a family member, a friend, or someone within your circle of support, instead of venting or sharing something bad that happened to you, tell them that you'd like to share a parenting win or a parenting victory. Something your kids did that was awesome, something you did. And it could even be my son threw the entire tub of organized Legos on the ground. And guess what? I didn't scream at him. That's a pretty big win too. So it could be anything, but maybe just looking for those little victories throughout our day, since we are together a lot more than normal, and also allowing yourself to recognize that you need space for yourself. So that might be waking up early. I know everyone's not an early bird. I am, and I'm waking up earlier because I know I need that time to myself to fill my bucket, to sit, to read, to drink my coffee before my children wake up. Otherwise, I'm just not operating in the best way possible. And I'm not going to suggest activities you can do with your children, because there's millions and millions of resources about that. But what I will say is make sure that you are connecting daily. And by that, I mean, make sure that at some point in the day, something that you're doing together, and you're only doing that. If it's playing a board game, great. If it's doing Legos, wonderful. If it's sitting down and watching their favorite YouTube video, do that and ask them how they're doing. Just as simple as that, and tell them how you feel too. How are you feeling right now? I'm feeling this way. And I also like to use our senses when I ask questions sometimes. It works especially well with younger children as well, which is, let's name something we can see, something we can hear, something we can taste. And if you do that together, it's almost like a little game, but it really shows them, I'm here with you now, and I can see the things you can see. I can hear the things that you can hear. And you can extend that out, especially if you're about to eat, if you're eating your meals together, which most of us probably are. But instead of just sitting and, oh, I'm on my phone, or, oh, I have to work, which I understand, people have different pressing needs. But in that moment, if you can just say, the phone doesn't come to the dinner table, so I'm here with you. How do you like your food? And allowing yourself to be fully present. And I'm going to do one more meditation, but before I do that, I also wanted to make sure that everybody who's here and hopefully gets this message is, it's really important for all of us to remember that you are enough as a parent, and we need to forgive our imperfections, and we need to also lay down that banner of suffering that so many of us hold, of what you should or could be doing. So just to remind all of us that you have the child you were meant to have, and you're the parent they were meant to have. And so within that, to know every day that happens, whatever challenges the world is throwing towards us, we are in this together, and we will get through this together. And it's important for us to just always remember how supported we all are. So I'd like to ask everyone for your patience in doing one meditation together. So
Aliya, I'm just going to interrupt for a second. We have about 2 minutes left in our session today. So,
okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's fast. I don't know about the question and answer, but I'd really like to do this. So I'm going to try to
sure, let's
get to the 2 minutes. Okay. So just closing your eyes, and I want you to imagine wherever you're seated right now, just settling into your own body, feeling yourself as a breathing body, and imagining your child or children seated next to you. See their gaze, looking into their eyes. Maybe you can remember those eyes when they were a baby. Visualize them and imagine taking a hold of their hand in yours, feeling its weight, its warmth, any scars that they may have. And maybe you can remember this hand as a tiny closed fist. Feel them breathing with you. Feel them sitting next to you. Smell their smell and know that you are meant to be, giving everything that this child needs, and know that today is tomorrow's yesterday. So be here, fully present for the gift that you have, which is today.
That's beautiful. Wow. That's
thanks, Aliya.
I'm getting a little
sorry, I went a little over.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely wonderful. I want to before, if we get cut off, I want to say thank you so much to Aliya Qutub. She runs a Doha Mindful Community here in Qatar. She is on Facebook, and I will. She is tagged in our. I'm going to share our screen. Here's some information about her and what she does. This is the handout that we had today. These are the mindfulness parenting tips for April. I will put it on Facebook and I will share it there if that's okay, Aliya.